I'm Mriganka Jaipuriyar, Head of News for S&P Global Commodity Insights in Asia. I'm here for Perspectives on CI Live. Earlier this week, countries that are part of the Mineral Security Partnership announced the creation of the MSP Finance Network, a network to boost investments in critical minerals to diversify and secure supply chains which are heavily concentrated in China. Now, the race to diversify supply chains has heated up in recent years, and understandably so. Besides the MSP, other alliances, all of which exclude China, are the Critical Minerals Mapping Initiatives, the Sustainable Critical Minerals Alliance, and so on and so forth. Even the Quad, which is a strategic security partnership between the US, Australia, Japan, and India, has extended its reach to minerals, recently pledging to focus efforts to boosting critical mineral production in their countries. Now, a question that has intrigued me, and I've spent some time researching it, is it even possible? Can the critical mineral supply chains be diversified in an efficient and effective way away from China? It's very hard to have an exact answer to this question, but over the next few minutes, I will give you some food for thought around this. Now, the importance of critical minerals to clean energy technology and the energy transition cannot be overstated. Copper is required in almost every clean energy technology, whether it's EVs, solar PV panels, wind turbines, power grids, electrolyzers, and EVs and batteries need every critical mineral, such as lithium, nickel, cobalt, graphite, some rare earth elements. Interestingly, despite their concentration of supplies, these minerals have not been exposed to any significant geopolitical risks, unlike oil, which has a far more diversified supply base. In fact, China's critical minerals strategy, which it crafted sometime in the early 1990s, was originally driven to address internal environmental and economic challenges and achieve its policy goals of leading in high-tech industries, including clean tech, and not really to weaponize or disrupt supply chains. But as heated geopolitical competition overlaps with decarbonization and the fourth industrial revolution, the geopolitical risks have been rising. Alliances that could lead to the creation of two trade blocs are emerging, resource nationalism has crept in, and China's export ban on graphite and certain rare earth elements last year demonstrated that it is willing to leverage its dominance in global critical mineral supply to retaliate against trade policies in the West. And as the US-China rivalry has gotten stronger, it has also strengthened Beijing's focus on indigenizing high-value supply chains to protect its own growth and security. Interestingly, while foreign observers talk about China's dominance in critical minerals, Chinese scholars have warned of potential shortages and supply issues that China may face going forward, which has led to a massive resource acquisition drive. Chinese companies, through the Belt and Road Initiative, have invested heavily in metals and mining projects in various African countries, in Bolivia, in Chile and Latin America, and also in Indonesia. Now, talking about China's dominance, I'll just give you some figures here to just show you how extremely dominant China is. China is currently the world's dominant copper supplier with a 45% market share that's only expected to go up further. It is the largest refiner of lithium and accounts for over 60% of refined lithium products. It accounts for more than 75% of global refined cobalt supply and 80% of graphite supply. And it's not just Chinese dominance that is of concern. Critical minerals production overall is dominated by very few countries. Chile, Peru, and the DRC dominate copper mining. Australia, Chile, and China dominate lithium. Cobalt is concentrated in the DRC and nickel in Indonesia. So in terms of barriers to diversification, there are three. Cost and technology are two key barriers, with the third one being stricter environmental regulations in the West. And this limits Western states' investment in producer countries and increases the lead time and cost to build facilities. Corruption and a lack of transparency in the mining sector of the DRC, for instance, poses challenges for Western companies to fulfill their transparency and accountability requirements. In contrast, Chinese companies are not subjected to the same internal pressures and scrutiny, and it gives them more flexibility to adjust to the DRC's local environment. In copper, cost and environmental concerns are key barriers to diversification of refining. Smelting is not a high-margin business, and increasing pressures from high labor and energy costs have made it challenging to compete with China. China also dominates the technology to convert lithium carbonate to high-value lithium hydroxide. Its dominance in graphite and rare earth elements is even harder to break due to constraints on natural graphite supply. Synthetic graphite production is increasing its share in batteries, the production of which is dominated by China. In rare earth mining, China holds the largest reserves. There are reserves in Vietnam, Brazil, Turkey. These are, however, immensely challenging to mine. One of the key challenges is the handling of radioactive elements such as uranium and thorium. Outside of China, very few countries have the infrastructure and the willingness to build solutions for the storage of these radioactive byproducts. And also finding and developing national resources is easier said than done. For example, the US Geological Survey has said that only 12% of US land has been mapped for metal reserves. The USGS estimates that it would take about 10 years to find and map all US resources, another 7 to 10 years to get those resources to the market, and this completely misses the window during which the US requires critical minerals. And while Australia may think of itself as a controlling player in the competition over critical minerals, given its vast resources, it really lacks the kind of vertical integration needed for supply chain control. And acquiring that capacity is prohibitive given the high labor costs in Australia compared with China. Now, it is interesting that the Mineral Security Partnership, which is by far the most significant alliance structure to systematically diversify supply chains away from China. Now, with the exception of India, which became a member of the MSP last year, the MSP members mostly overlap with that of the OECDs, a club of rich, mainly Western countries. Some of the major metals producers, such as Indonesia and Philippines, and copper producers like Chile and Peru, and significant lithium reserve holders like Bolivia are missing from the MSP. It may be more effective for the US and its allies to target countries rich in minerals and those that can support the financing and hosting of refining and processing plants. These countries are neither aligned with the broader Western political and economic alliance system, nor are they allies of China and Russia. Efforts are being made with Turkey, which has vast rare earth reserves. It is being wooed to join the MSP, but is also in the midst of dialogue to join BRICS and access China's technology and know-how to extract these reserves. So it's going to be an interesting space to watch how that plays out. So to conclude, like I said in the beginning, it's very hard to have an exact answer. And while every effort must be made to diversify supply chains, we can assume that it's going to be a costly, challenging, and disruptive process to dislodge China, given its cost and incumbency advantage, and also its deep integration in the supply chains of many Western companies. So that's it from me for today. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you.